guys, welcome to Home Sweet Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom to one. And in today's video, I'm going to give you my honest opinion on Gather Round Homeschool's transportation unit. Now, if you're interested in this unit and you're like, I don't think my kids are going to like it, believe me, I was in the same boat. When I heard her mention transportation, I was kind of bummed. I taught kindergarten before I started homeschooling, and we did transportation units, and the whole time I was thinking, how in the world is Gather Round going to do a unit that's going to hold my 12-year-old's attention? Well, I shouldn't have doubted Gather Round because they did an amazing job with transportation. We covered everything from the fastest, the most luxurious, the largest. Every bit of transportation you could think of and more is mentioned in this unit. It is an amazing unit. If you're new to Gather Round, it is a unit study approach and it is meant to teach your kids all the way from pre-K to high school. There is a level for all of your kids. And if you need help placing them, if you look in the frequently asked questions, there's going to be a little write-up just to kind of give you some tips of where you may want to put your kids. But that's really up to you. You know your kids better than anyone else and you can decide where they go. All I can share is my experience. So for my son, who is a 6th grader, he's 12 years old, we have been using the upper elementary. This is our second full year using Gather Round Homeschool, and upper elementary is where he fits the best. We hope to transition to the middle school level this coming school year. But right now we have been doing upper elementary and it works really good for him. So we always purchase the one student digital because I only have one student. And I just printed it home on my HP printer using HP Instant Ink and it has worked out perfectly. So let's talk about transportation. Transportation is a year 2 unit. Now that really doesn't mean anything other than it was made in year 2. You're going to hear that a lot when you talk about Gather Round or you read about Gather Round, a year 1 unit, a year 2 unit, a year 3 unit, but that only signifies what year it was made in. When you do Gather Round, you can start anywhere you want to. So if your kiddos are interested in transportation, this may be where you want to start. So when you purchase Gather Round, whether you do the family bundle or you do the one student digital or you order print, you're going to get a teacher's guide, and that's what I have here. And you'll start your day by reading from the teacher's guide. You can break up these lessons and really make it your own to keep your kids engaged. It can be a lot of reading. And so if you want to break it up by using videos or hands-on activities, whatever works for you, make it work for you so that you all enjoy it. In your teacher's guide, and I do have a flip through of this, I'll link it down below. You're going to have some lesson planning pages if you want to use those. You're going to have a book and resource list. Please remember these are suggested. You do not have to have any of these to complete any of the lessons, nor do you have to run out and buy them or find them all at your library. These are just suggestions. I always say, start by what you have at home. Look around and see what books you already have. Always look up books on YouTube. When I was a teacher and I know my kids were so tired of hearing my voice, I would look up whatever book we were reading and there was somebody reading it on YouTube. So don't be afraid to check out YouTube for things like that. And another thing that we used when I taught school was Epic. It's a wonderful service that has a ton of children's books and you are bound to find some transportation books on there. So you've got this book list, but remember it's just suggested. Let's see what else here. So you want to check out my flip through because you're going to get to see the table of contents up close and see exactly what is inside the teacher's guide. But I found the teacher's guide to be very interesting. It really held my son's attention and we learned a lot. We learned a lot about transportation that we didn't even know about or know that it even existed. We loved it. And so let me just show you real quick how I kind of broke it up just to give you an idea. Since I'm giving you my opinion, it is a lot for my son to sit through in one sitting. So what I like to do this time is I started with the writing project. After we said our prayer, we would go straight into the writing project while his mind was fresh and we would go ahead and get that out of the way. Then I would read a little bit, we would talk, all that good stuff, and then I would just make a note, and I know you can't read that, but it's a note about what I wanted to do next to break up that to break up the reading so that I didn't lose him. I didn't want his mind wandering. I wanted to keep him focused and excited about what he was learning, so I do break it up. I also highlight things if he finds things that are interesting so that he doesn't forget. I will highlight them so when he goes back to do the notebooking pages, he has somewhere that he can look and he doesn't have to search for all of that information. So don't be afraid to do that. Like right here says conveyor belt activity. So we put our science project that was right in the student notebook, we put it right there in the middle of the lesson to kind of break it up so that he wasn't just listening to me read and talk the whole time. And that helps him tremendously. Something I really, really loved about this unit was at the end of every lesson, there is a life skill. And this was from planning a trip, to changing a tire, to checking air pressure, to knowing basic first aid. This was wonderful. I thought that was probably the best thing about the whole unit, was putting that real life application to it. And we had a really good time learning those things that I don't think about teaching all the time, but are very important skills to have. So that was a really good addition to this unit that I really enjoyed. So that's the teacher's guide. This is my son's notebook, and you can watch on my flip through how I set it up. Because I printed at home, I can set it up a little differently, and I wanted to try something differently. Not differently, I wanted to try something different this time. So one thing you're going to notice in the year 2 units, if you've only done year 1, is there is seat work. Guys, we get 1,000 questions a day on the Facebook page, and I see it all the time. What do we do with the seat work? How do we use it? And that's really up to you and what works best for your family. I've seen where people copy these pages enough for the entire week. I've seen where people laminate this page. They put it in a sheet protector and the child uses it every day. You can use this exactly how you want to. You can do it all, or you can do none, or you can do some of it. For us, we used it for the spelling words this year, and that's it. That's where I got our spelling words. We would do the pre-test the first day that we did the unit for the week, and then I would take the words that he missed, I would put them into vocabulary A to Z, he would practice each day, and we would test on Friday. We didn't use anything else. So really just make it work for your family and what your family needs. It has a lot of wonderful features, so see what you want to do. Don't feel like you have to do it all, but it is there if you want it. And there's one for every week. The other thing you're going to notice about the year 2 units, and I think it's excellent, is they have really just vamped up their language arts. People were concerned with the year 1 units, and they listen, guys. If you ever have feedback on any of their units, you can email them and let them know. They listen, they take note to what people are saying. And I'm telling you, this revamp of language arts is amazing. So it's set up to be done over 3 days. But again, people do this the way they want to. If your kid can get it all done in 1 day and wants to do it that way, that's fine. For my son, we break it up into 3 days. It's just a little quick dose of language arts. So we go over whatever the topic is, he does that day's work, we check it, and we move on. And that's what works for us. You might need to make a reminder note for yourself to go back and do grammar, and you can get it done that way. So it's 3 days, and then we take the 4th day with no grammar, and that works out perfectly fine. The grammar focus in the upper elementary transportation is adjectives. So you're diving into the world of adjectives and how if we use adjectives in our writing, it makes our writing better. And it was a great, great, great connection to the writing project. So we'll talk about that too. So like I said, the grammar is all about adjectives in the upper elementary. Now, the writing project. Every unit has a writing project, and in the transportation unit, you're going to be working on writing a short story, or I know for upper elementary, it's a short story. And I think this was the first unit that I really loved the build up to the writing project. I felt that it was all very connected and very well thought out, and it just worked really well. So for the writing project, you are working on it every day, and you're learning the elements of a short story. So character and plot and problem and solution, all of those things that are a part of a good story. And there is such good buildup. This day you're talking about characters. You're reading a paragraph that someone else wrote, and from their descriptive paragraph, you draw a picture of it. And you talk about how hard it would be to draw that character if they didn't use that descriptive language, which goes back to the grammar portion, which is all about adjectives and being descriptive. On the second day, they're writing a descriptive paragraph. My son ran into some problems, didn't really understand what he was supposed to do, and so we worked on it and fixed it. So this was such a good build up. I really felt like whoever wrote this unit, it was just so well thought out, and it really just helped prepare my son to write the short story. This was a really fun game that we played where they had to use descriptive language to describe this picture. And if we had wrote the same word, we crossed it out. But if we had a word the other person didn't use, we got a point. So it really made you use those words that you know, not just the same old words like cute and funny. You know, you really had to dig deep and pick those really good adjectives to describe both of these pictures. It was a lot of fun. And then on the last time, after you had that buildup of characters, you got to start thinking about your short story by starting with the main character and how you're going to describe them. And so I really thought it just laid this great foundation for how to do a story. And it did it the whole time. It took the setting, it took the problem, it took the solution, and it really gave them some lessons to give them a foundation to be able to write their short story in the end. And I was very blown away by how well my son did. Now, when you look at this right here, this was my son's writing, and so I talked to him about how it's important when you're doing a rough draft to maybe skip lines so that you can go in and make those revisions and those edits. And so we talked about that, and he did such a good job. We were able to go in and add better adjectives, and we were able to move sentences around, and he did so well. And then for the end, they can choose how they want to present it and things like that. He wanted to type his, and so it was a great lesson in typing and how to do paragraphs and how to use the word processor. And he ended up doing a lot. For the reluctant writer that he was, Gather Round has really encouraged him and has really inspired him to write more. He loves to write poems and he loves short stories, and I do credit it all to Gather Round because he loves it. All right, let's see here. So we talked about the seat work, the grammar, and the writing project. There were a lot of fun sheets in here. Like I said, go check out my flip through. But one of the things we really loved in here was the science. We did things like wheels and axles. We talked about force. We talked about horsepower. We made our own conveyor belt, our own elevator. I mean, tons of fun science experiments. And guys, it used things that we already had around the house. I did not have to buy anything special to do any of this. So the science experiments were very easy for us to just do. I would recommend that you at least look a day ahead or a week ahead if you can and gather the things that you need so you're not scrambling for them the day that you're doing this. Another recommendation I have is if you're going to do this unit, make sure that you're on the Gather Round app or you're looking in the album sections in the Facebook group, because you're going to get to see wonderful videos that other families have shared, fun projects that they've done, and that will give you some ideas if you like to add to these units, and I know a lot of you guys do. Those are great places to go to get those really good ideas. So make sure you share that. I think our most favorite activity was we created a submarine. So we used 20-ounce bottles and we used some rocks and we took it up to the pool and we talked about how submarines go into the water and why you want it to be balanced. We had this whole lesson, and I think it was closer towards the end, and we had a really good time doing that. So this unit was a ton of fun. It had a lot of science, a lot of hands-on, and a lot of real life mixed into it. So don't knock this because it says transportation and you think your middle school, high schoolers won't like it, or your girls, because I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Let me tell you what we read really quick. I don't have it with me because I've already got it in the cell box, but our read aloud for this unit was The Mouse and the Motorcycle, and there's nothing wrong with that book. My son just did not enjoy it. We started off pretty good. He was kind of into it, and then towards the end, he was like, he didn't like it anymore. So I finished reading it myself and kind of just gave him a little summary of it, but he wasn't into it. So we did read The Mouse and the Motorcycle. We also read Who Was Henry Ford? This book was packed full of great information. And then we also did What Was Ellis Island? Because in the unit, it does talk about immigration. And anytime I see something like that, as far as history, that I want my son to know more about, I try to find a Who Was book or Where Was or What Is, you know, all those books. I try to find those for him because he enjoys those, and that way it just extends the history a little bit more. So I don't have that one with me. I already put it upstairs, but those were the 2 books that we read along with it, and we loved it. They were great, full of information. We learned a lot. One of our fun, easy experiments, I didn't think my son was going to like this because this was actually listed as a pre-K experiment, but one of the things in transportation was to build your own rocket. And yeah, we could have went all out. We could have bought a kit. We could have done all of that, but we were getting into summer mode. It's really hot where we live. We were ready to go to the pool, and we needed an easy rocket experiment. And this one, all we needed was a straw and this printout and some tape. I mean, I was like, okay, that's great. So I let him make it, and our friend that homeschools with us. And I was just gonna see, you know, will they like it? And they loved it. They had the most fun setting these off, determining, you know, how hard they blow to see how high they could get it to go up in the air. Simple experiment on Pinterest. So don't knock those easy ones because my son enjoyed this. But I will share a flop with you. I bought 4 of these at the Dollar Tree. I thought, oh, these will be so fun. They can put them together while I read. You guys, they were so complicated. Now, you may have some expert engineers and builders in your house, but we are not those. We build Legos, but that's about it. This is the only directions that you get. This little flat. Yeah, these were very hard and very frustrating, and we did not finish any of them. So thank goodness we only spent $1 on them. Maybe one day we'll build them, but we put those away. So those were a flop for us. Let me know if you bought these, because I had these in one of my previous videos, and you got them built. Let me see them. I'm proud of you, but we could not do it. So that's my review on transportation. We loved it. I think the writing project was probably the most thought out one out of all the units we've done. The grammar's great. A lot of good lessons about all different kinds of transportation. So if you have any questions about Gather Round Homeschool or transportation or just anything in general, leave them in the comments down below. Check out that flip through of what's inside transportation. And as always, thank you so much for watching.